This call is being recorded. And now to begin the program, I'd like to introduce Chris Flack.
Hey, thank you so much, Tracy, and welcome everybody in our audience to today's webcast, Faster Failover Starts with a Faster Cloud, sponsored by Infrascale. I'm Chris Flack with Virtualization Review, and I'm here to be your host for today's event, so thank you all for joining. Just a few quick things before we begin today's presentation and introduce our speakers and have all sorts of fun. So just a couple quick reminders is we are having a Q&A session at the end of today's webcast. We do encourage you at any point to enter your question via the Ask a Question box on the left-hand side of your console. As part of today's webcast, we are giving away a really awesome prize of a Parrot drone. That's right, a Parrot drone, really great prize. If you have the most relevant questions, the best questions, the most relevant questions at the end of the show today, you might be announced the winner, so please feel free to participate in the question and answer session at the end of the call today, and you can be entered to win that Parrot drone. We also, in addition to the Q&A session, are recording today's show for future viewing and listening purposes. We'll send you a link within 24 to 48 hours after the program today where you can view the replay. Feel free to share that link with coworkers, colleagues, friends, anybody who may be interested on today's topic. Today we're going to be joined by two great presenters. A little bit later on in the show, you're going to hear from Adam Smith. He's involved with the strategic technology partnerships at Google. Adam joined Google in 2006 as part of the team that launched the Google Search Appliance and then G Suite. He later relocated from New York to Sydney to support the launch of Google's Asia-Pacific enterprise business. Before joining Google Cloud Platform team, he led the business development efforts for Chrome for Work. He currently resides in San Francisco with his family of four, and he grew up in New Orleans and has a bachelor's degree in international relations from the University of Pennsylvania. First up today, you're going to hear from Stefan Fima. He has over 20 years of experience in leading technology and product management teams at both tech startups and large software companies. Prior to joining Infrascale, he led efforts to make PassLogix an industry leader in the enterprise security space to be recognized by Gartner and purchased by Oracle. He is fluent in French and Spanish and received a BS in Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering from UCLA and an MBA from Columbia University. He is passionate about aeronautics and holds a personal pilot's license. So that's pretty cool. Both guys are really great presenters, and we're going to hear from them really shortly. But first up today, we actually had a poll question for everybody in the audience. So feel free to interact with the slide on your screen. Our poll question right now is, are you using the cloud for more than 50% of your applications? Your choices are yes, no, or not sure. So feel free to submit your question at this time by actually interacting with the slide on your screen. So please feel free to submit your questions at this time. And while I wait for people to answer their questions at this time, I would like to introduce Stefan to come in. And so what do you typically see when you ask this question out there, Stefan? What do you typically come back and see from audience members or people you put this poll question out to? Do they reply with a yes or no mostly, or do you have people that actually are not really sure about their cloud?
Most of the people that we interact with are pretty sure about what they're doing with the cloud. It might be yes or it might be no, but they definitely tend to know.
All right, excellent. Well, we have some results here. Let me push them out to the audience and for you guys. So it says right here, right here, it sees that we have about 33% reporting yes, 54% reporting back no, and about 12% of our audience coming back not sure. So thank you so much for your participation in today's polls, everyone. Really appreciate that. And without further ado, I will push out the agenda so that way Stefan can get started. So please take the floor, guys.
Thank you very much. So the poll question today was a sort of a great lead-in to what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about four things. First off are some of the common threats to business continuity that your business might eventually experience, hopefully not. Second will be how the cloud really changes business continuity, changes backup and disaster recovery. Then Adam will talk about the Google Cloud in general and its unique capabilities. And then I will come back and talk about the unique synergies that exist by making our solutions work well inside of the Google Cloud and the benefits that that can provide. And so to start off, we'll talk about what are really the threats to business uptime. And by uptime, we really mean the ability for your organization, your business to continue to operate nonstop, continuous fashion, day in, day out. And the three things that we see are really data loss, ransomware, and downtime. And data loss here truly means that the data is lost. Ransomware, I sometimes refer to that as data hijacking. The data is not necessarily lost, but it's definitely been hijacked, and your use of it is denied. And then lastly, downtime, which I differentiate from data loss, and it's not just losing data, it's that your systems actually go down and you lose access to your applications and therefore cannot operate. So when we look at data loss, you can see some of the statistics that are up on this particular slide. Even to this day, even though we all know that protecting your systems and backing up your systems is a good thing to do, it's still a highly prevalent thing, something that occurs a lot. Maybe it is due to user human error in unwittingly deleting files. Maybe it's the executive that is rushing to a meeting and forgets his laptop in the back of a taxi. Maybe it's other scenarios like that. Somebody loses their phone. But whatever the cause, data loss is still a big deal. And if you haven't done something to protect against that when that data is lost, definitely it's gone. And depending on the value of that data, can have a minor or a major impact on your business. So a particular case of data loss, or again, what I call data hijacking, is ransomware. That is getting a lot of notoriety these days. I think in the last 2 years, it's really sort of grown into one of the biggest black market businesses around, where a lot of people get taken by ransomware, where basically an illicit actor introduces some form of a virus or other kind of malware onto a system, which then will begin to encrypt files either slowly or quickly. The more sophisticated versions will begin to encrypt files slowly underneath the radar while still giving the user access to those files for a period of time. And then when they have encrypted enough of those files, all of a sudden they kick it on and everything becomes unavailable. And instead you get a ransom notice on your screen that says, please pay us in order to get continued access to your data. If that happens to a user, that's a big problem. If that happens to a lot of users in a company, that's a bigger problem. If that malware migrates to servers and applications and important information like patient health records, it's a huge problem. Moving on to that is the next item, which is downtime. And downtime can happen for a number of different reasons. We can talk about, here at Infrascale, we often talk about micro disasters or system outages and macro disasters or natural disasters. And the micro ones can happen pretty frequently. You have a server that goes down, you have a RAID card that burns out, a disk drive that crashes, software, something goes wrong, or you have a human issue. Somebody does something wrong, inadvertently deletes a bunch of files or whatever. Or you might have an environmental issue. These things are, they can be somewhere between a nuisance and a major item you wish hadn't happened. And it happens, more frequently than we'd like to admit. On the right-hand side are the things that, may only happen once in a lifetime to some of us, or a little bit more frequently depending what part of the world you live in. But when they happen, they tend to take out more than just one server or one system. They tend to take out an entire site or an entire organization. And those are the ones that are the big ones when they do occur. Either one constitutes downtime, where you cannot take orders, you cannot operate your business, you cannot continue, and that can have a lot of cost. And it's prevalent. You can see some of the statistics here that this isn't something that is necessarily once in a lifetime. It may or may not happen to you. Knock on wood, hope that it doesn't. But in aggregate, it happens a lot. And so this is something that you definitely cannot just ignore. And the cost of downtime obviously scales with the size of your organization. If you're a small to medium business, 1 hour of downtime might only cost you $8,000. If you're a large organization, that same 1 hour of downtime might cost you over $600,000. If you just think about very large, let's say businesses that do internet commerce, 1 hour of downtime could represent a significant amount of lost revenue to them. Okay, so now that we've talked at a high level about problems associated with business continuity, let's talk about what we can do about them. And so addressing each one, step by step, the way we just did it in addressing the problems, we'll look at backup and recovery, anomaly detection, and disaster recovery as a service. Now, when we think about backup and recovery, we can look at the data within an organization in the form of a pyramid. And a pyramid where we start at the outer ring of endpoints, which might be laptops or tablets or phones, moving inner ring once we get to remote and branch offices, which have perhaps some local servers and definitely some desktop computers, things like this. And then we get closer and closer to the core of the business, we'll have core data centers, and then eventually we get to the real center mission-critical applications. And what we find is that the inner core is usually always well protected. Everybody understands that that's got to, the data's got to be protected. From the early days of computers where we had tape backup systems on through now where we have sophisticated continuous data protection environments, that is well understood. Yet to this day, we see this a lot. We see that the outer rings, branch offices, laptops, all that kind of stuff, is not consistently protected. Even among our own clients who are doing data protection with us, when we first meet with them, we find out that a lot of times the end user data is not protected. And so a backup solution for that these days is primarily going to be a cloud backup solution, right? And the reason for a cloud backup solution is that it does a lot of things. Number one is it's not tied to a particular location, right? You can have users that are remote users traveling wherever they are. The minute they have an internet connection, which these days is almost continuously, is the ability for them to back up their data to the cloud. So that is very good for that. You don't depend on having physical infrastructure there. They can recover their data on their own instantly if they should lose something. So in terms of data backup for users, a cloud backup solution these days is absolutely the most flexible and least costly way to go. Now let's take a look at ransomware. If you were to get infected by ransomware, there really are only two choices that you have. The first choice you have is you can pay the ransom. And what we find is when people pay the ransom, that ransom is not insignificant, and usually you get your data back. However, there have been some instances where somebody might actually pay the ransom and still not get their data back. And so it's not necessarily 100% assured that just because you pay the ransom that you're home free. So that is one alternative. The second alternative is to try and restore your systems from a previous state, right? And the way you would do that is you would step back in the form of going back to your previous backups and finding when was the last good backup of your data or your systems that you could restore to. Now, in this scenario, typically the minute you start looking for that is after you've been held up for ransom. And who knows how long that ransomware has been in your environment encrypting data so that by the time you actually get put up for the ransom, it might have been days or weeks. And so when you do try and step back into previous backups to find the last good data, you may find that you have a lot of current data that's being lost, okay? So what to do about this? Well, in general, when it comes to ransomware, we would always say, it's a multi-layered approach. So first off, you should be educating users about not clicking on those suspicious links. Secondly, you should have a good malware detection, antivirus software installed that tries to catch it before it actually hits. And then the third layer of defense is good backups. And when it comes to good backups, we like to think we bring something to the table that is unique, which is that as we are backing up your data in our cloud backup solution, we are continuously checking that those backups to see if there's an anomalous change in the amount of files that have been modified. So typically, users, they modify a certain number of files a day. Maybe it's a lot of files, maybe it's a few files, depends per user or per application, but there's usually a normal range, an average if you wish, right? There is an average change rate on those files for a particular user. So if all of a sudden we start seeing that the change rate spikes really high, okay, and it hasn't done so in the past, and it exceeds a certain threshold, then that tips us off that, there's something going on that is not normal. There's an anomaly in the pattern of file change rate. And that is typically correlated and associated with ransomware. And so we can alert administrators long before the ransomware actually holds you up for ransom that there's something going on. And by doing that, we can help you recover those, A, eliminate the ransomware, and B, recover data, much more quickly and therefore lose much less data because you don't have to go so far back to a different, an earlier recovery point just to get your data back. So that is something unique that we bring to the table to help mitigate the damage that can occur with ransomware. And again, this is always in the context of a cloud-based data protection, backup solution. Okay, so now let's move on to the third topic here, which is disaster recovery. So disaster recovery is not just about your data, it's about your systems. In the olden days, there was no difference, and your disaster recovery was data recovery. And you had things like offline tape backup, where the tapes were held in an off-site vault, and if your system went down, you'd have to go and get the tape back and restore your systems, and the whole process took at least 3 or 4 days. Then came things like cloud backup and appliance-based backup solutions, which would try and help you recover the data, and you'd still have to rebuild your systems and recover the data and get back up and running that way. Then for those companies that could afford it, you had either a second site that was either cold, warm, or hot, where you basically, especially at the extreme of a hot site, if you had one data center, you had a second data center, and that second data center cost you as much as the first one, and it was dark, and you hoped you never had to use it, and in effect you were paying 2 for 1 just in case something went wrong, which is fine for really large enterprise that have such budgets, but is absolutely impossible for everybody else who has the same needs, the same requirements, maybe even the same regulatory requirements, but don't have the same budgets. And so what it turns out that there's 2 technologies that have allowed us to break this paradigm, to break this line and do something new. And those 2 technologies are virtualization and cloud. Virtualization because we can capture physical systems and convert them into virtual images, and cloud because cloud is a shared infrastructure. So now I can pay for the infrastructure when I need it without having to pay for it when I don't. And so what these 2 technologies permit is what we call disaster recovery as a service. And so here in the next slide, I'm kind of trying to give you another way of looking at what is disaster recovery as a service in comparison to old school tape backup and traditional data backup. So in the old days, I would do a backup either by tape or on disk. And then in the case of tape, I would store that tape somewhere off-site. And if something went wrong, I would retrieve the tape, restore, and then be able to rerun my systems. And that might take days. In a traditional traditional backup scenario, I would do the exact same thing. There's no retrieval process per se since all the data is online. And so I would perform my nightly backups, and then if something went wrong, I would do a restore, which could still take a fair amount of time, and then get back up and running. What disaster recovery as a service does is flips around the run and the restore steps. Okay, so that I do continuous backups, every hour, every 15 minutes, whatever is the frequency that I want. And if something were to go wrong, I can immediately run a replica of that system, a virtual image of that system, either locally or in the cloud, and have my users back up and running in minutes. And then restore my original systems on my own time. And that is the difference right there that allows us to be able to say that we can bring somebody back up in minutes instead of hours and days. So to show you what that looks like, if I'm an end user who is doing my computing on particular systems, that data, those systems are being captured and captured onto a local on-premise virtual or physical appliance and then replicated up to the cloud. If I were to have a micro disaster, for example, where a system goes down, the administrator can immediately sort of push button failover, right-click boot literally, on the local appliance, which will then run a replica of that particular system locally, and the user can then keep on working. If, however, I have a macro disaster where the entire site goes down, including the on-premise appliance, which is supposed to provide the first level of protection, then I can do the exact same thing, only now I'm doing it from the cloud. So in the cloud, I'm literally going into the console, I, the administrator, and booting up the last good replica of those systems, which runs them directly in the cloud, and then the users continue working. And when my production systems are back online, then we can fail all of those systems back to the production servers and get everything back up and running normally. So at Infrascale, we offer two cloud-based services that do this, Infrascale Cloud Backup and Infrascale Disaster Recovery. These are two cloud service offerings. The first one, Infrascale Cloud Backup, is a pure direct-to-cloud offering, and it is primarily oriented around data, and is great for endpoint data protection, great for remote and branch offices, basically great for those outer rings that I mentioned that are often unprotected. And they will capture and back up data and protect that data directly within the cloud. The second one, Infrascale Disaster Recovery, is a hybrid cloud solution, which has an on-premise component, which either can be all software or can include hardware as a physical appliance, and a cloud component. And so we capture systems, deduplicate all the data locally, and then replicate the data up into the cloud. And then when the user, if something goes down, the user can either bring the systems up locally on the appliance as virtual images or in the cloud as virtual images. Okay, so with that, I will give it back to Chris for our next poll question.
All right, thank you so much. Question here for everybody in the audience, and just like the last time, you could actually interact with the slide on your screen. So poll question here, which problem are you primarily looking to address with the cloud? Is it disaster recovery, ransomware mitigation, or compliance headaches? We'll give everybody a couple seconds to answer the question here in the meantime. And don't forget, in the meantime, we actually have a data sheet down there in the resource tab of your doc for you to download. It's a cloud platform data sheet with Infrascale and Google. It's there, we're together. It's down there in the dock of your screen. It accompanies today's program. Feel free to download it, read it when the webcast is over, get some more information on it. But it's down there in the resource tab of your screen down there. Feel free to download it now at the end of the show. That would be great. Okay, so before we introduce Adam, I'll say, Stefan, what do you usually see as the answer when somebody comes back with this? Because we've got a great number of answers from the audience, but before I push them out, do you usually see people looking to address disaster recovery in the cloud? It seems to be the most popular answer in some of the webcasts that we do.
So we do see disaster recovery a lot. That is definitely one of the primary reasons. We do, especially in the last, let's say, 6 to 9 months, we've seen a rapid increase in the amount of people that are looking to protect against ransomware. That's the second one that we get a lot. Thirdly, we do hear about compliance, but when we hear about it, we tend to hear about it as relates to either having backup or business continuity. That's what we typically see.
Excellent, and we have some results here from the audience today, and it seems that we've got 75.8% of you responding back with disaster recovery. We've got 12.1% sharing ransomware and compliance headaches. So thank you all for your participation in the poll so far in today's show. And Adam, I think it's your time to take the floor and get started with a little bit of magic from the Google side of things. So Adam, if you're ready, please take the floor and get started. I'll push your first slide out here for you, so we'll make it easier. So get going, Adam.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. Thanks for spending some time with us this morning. Google's mission from its inception in 1998 has been to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. But when I think of Google, I think of the infrastructure, the network, the data centers, the servers, all designed to help Google's developers build software and services at scale. We've been building and operating this hyperscale cloud for a long time, and the goals remain the same. Make it easy to build and run great software and deliver it on a global scale, reliably and securely. This cloud now powers 8 1 billion user-plus products: Google Search, Google Maps, YouTube, Gmail, Android, Google Chrome, Google Play Store, and now the Google Cloud Platform, which reaches over 1 billion end users every month using the same infrastructure that powers Google's own services through customers like Snapchat, and Spotify, retailers like the Home Depot. Each day, these GCP customers collectively touch over 1 billion different IP addresses worldwide. With Google Cloud, we're building a cloud that's pretty different. To better explain this and why it matters to companies of all sizes, let me just review a bit of history. The first wave of cloud started about 20 years ago with co-located hosting. Co-location gave users the efficiency of renting physical space rather than investing in data center real estate of their own. Most cloud today shares a lot of the similarities with the private data centers and colo facilities of the decades past. The components of these virtual data centers match the physical building blocks of hosted computing, right? Servers, CPUs, load balancers, hard drives, and so on. Now they're simply just virtual devices. That's what we're calling the second wave of cloud computing. What had been a purchase order has become an API, which has had a profound impact for many. But the basic building blocks of computing haven't changed yet, and it's difficult to orchestrate them even when they are virtualized. This model forces developers to spend much of their time thinking about things other than making their application great. Do we have enough servers? Are they all patched? Did we pre-purchase too much capacity? In the virtualized data center model that most people think of as cloud, this never gets easier. Like many companies today, Google used to run this kind of cloud internally until we realized our business couldn't move fast enough unless we reduced the complexity of that model. So about 10 years ago, we switched to a container-based architecture. This is a third wave cloud that consists of a combination of automated services and scalable data. Products like YouTube serve millions of users each minute, yet the developers working on these apps update production code multiple times a day without any disruption, and their systems are resilient and secure. What makes this possible is that we started from first principles, designing every element of our infrastructure, including the tool chain, so that our devs can be more productive while still enjoying the unprecedented scale. This means devs don't need to spin up servers, configure networks, patch operating systems. They simply focus on building innovative software. And this is how companies delight customers. This is how you motivate employees and ultimately win new markets as a business. We're delivering this vision today on GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, with products like App Engine, where you never see servers or patches and can literally spend 0 hours on admin per year. We see it with products like BigQuery, our data warehousing, big data query engine, where you don't have to provision and maintain an analytics cluster. With our managed Hadoop product called DataProc, you can be up and running in 90 seconds. The goal is to focus on functionality and not managing infrastructure. To achieve this, Google's making a massive investment in the infrastructure. Google Cloud and our customers benefit from this investment, and we're able to translate this into new services and better operations for our customers. Google invested nearly $10 billion into this global infrastructure in 2015 and $27 billion in capital expenditure in the trailing 3 years previous. So we're serious about this game, and we realize that there's a long-term investment here that's needed. But we're really just at the beginning of this cloud transformation. The pace is relentless and getting faster every day. Deutsche Bank took the top 3 public cloud vendors and added up their estimated revenues and then said the IT industry is more than $1 trillion. And the public cloud providers, AWS, Google, and Azure, currently get only 5%. We're at 5% of the total available market today. Google's moving really fast. We've got well over 10,000 engineers working on this. This is the largest group of product managers and engineers of any division inside of Google. And you see that reflected in the pace of innovation. 339 product releases last year, and lots of really fun growth across storage and computing, and third-wave platform products like containers and applications built on top of those containers. I see this slide a couple down in the Infrascale deck as well, but it's important. Google's networking technology is profoundly different from anything available anywhere. We're on our 5th generation of network infrastructure design, and have implemented a 100x increase in bandwidth over the last 10 years. This provides our customers with petabyte-a-second bandwidth within our network. This is one of the highest capacity networks in the world, all of which we own directly. Google is the world's largest ISP, with more points of presence than any other cloud provider out there. We do see strong demand for capacity from customers around the world on the Google Cloud Platform. So to make sure every customer has a GCP region near them, we will be adding new regions globally. Last summer, we launched our new GCP region in Oregon, and demand quickly exceeded our forecast. So we're going to continue to announce additional regions. We expect to maintain this pace of adding roughly one region a month throughout 2017 and into 2018. And again, all of these are connected by Google's private network. It's the most direct connection to your end users wherever they reside. So if your application connects to your end users, it will do so via the same network that Google users have come to expect everywhere. Google Compute Engine, which is our infrastructure as a service, lets you create and run virtual machines on Google's infrastructure. It offers scale and performance and value that allow you to easily launch large compute clusters, as Infrascale's disaster recovery customers take advantage of today. Compute Engine instances also boot in the range of 40 to 50 seconds, roughly a fifth of the time required by competing clouds. We are also the only cloud provider with built-in live migration, which basically allows us to upgrade or replace hardware without affecting any workloads running on it. Because of this, we avoid many of the common causes of cloud provider service outage. And we're also the price performance leader. Some customers see as much as 50% savings compared to other cloud providers utilizing Compute Engine. Not just because of our automatic discounts that are built in for sustained use, but because we allow you to pay for only what you need when you need it. We support custom virtual machine types, not a sort of one t-shirt size fits all, and per minute billing. So if you spin up a VM and use it for 5 minutes of that hour, you're only going to pay for the 5 minutes. Lastly, I'll touch on security. More than 600 full-time engineers, it's sitting in the same office I sit in Mountain View, in our headquarters actually, including some of the world's experts in computer security, work to protect your information. Keeping our network and our customers' network secure is our highest priority. You'll see the number of industry standard certifications that we've gone through via audits and otherwise. But rest assured, security is paramount for us, and there's plenty more you can do to read on top of this. That's it for me. We're excited for Infrascale's launch today, and with their DR and cloud backup solutions on the Google Cloud Platform. So thanks, everyone, for your time.
Great. Thank you, Adam. So this all sets the stage for what we believe is some unique synergies that come from combining our capabilities with the capabilities of the Google Cloud. Obviously, Infrascale has been doing cloud backup and disaster recovery as a service in the cloud for a long time. However, in working with Google, there are some really unique things that come out. As part of the Infrascale sort of strategy, we've always believed in being open and giving people the choice of different clouds, and including leading public clouds. And we've had a lot of experience over that in the past. And when we began working with the Google Cloud, there were a number of things that really piqued our interest. First off, when you think about working in the cloud, most people often think about continuous computing in the cloud. So I boot up a virtual machine, it runs, and I let it run for as long as I need it, and that could be a continuous operating environment. In the case of disaster recovery, this is different because most of the times, you're running your production servers, your production systems, and you're only going to run in the cloud for disaster recovery purposes when something goes wrong. But when you have to boot it up, it has to boot fast, okay? Because you're in the middle of a disaster, your system's just gone down, you need to get back up and running, and you need to boot fast. At Infrascale, we promise that we'll have your systems back up and running in 15 minutes or less. That means we need to be running on a cloud, on a public cloud, which has really fast boot times. And so when the Google Cloud can boot a virtual machine in 40 or 50 seconds or even less, that makes it appropriate for use in the application of disaster recovery. There's been other clouds we've had experience with in the past where that exact same metric could take up to 4 hours. And that's not acceptable. The other thing is that the Google Cloud is very consistent. So it boots 40 to 50 seconds per VM, and that's a consistent number. Network throughput is consistent. Latency is low. These are the kinds of things that you need in a disaster recovery application. Okay. The second thing is that the Google Cloud is scalable. Adam talked about custom machine types, and we found that to be important. When you try and do sort of t-shirt sizing for machines, you often run into a situation where there's not enough CPU but more than enough storage, or not enough RAM but more storage than you need. And so sometimes you need to be able to tune that exactly to the application as required. And so Google provides that, and that's very nice. The other thing is, in terms of scalability, is their minute-level billing. So when you're running continuous computing in the cloud, that's fine. You can play on block time, per hour, per day, per month, and that's perfectly fine. But when you're doing disaster recovery, especially if you're just doing DR testing, okay, so you want to bring up your systems, you want to make sure that they work, and then you want to bring it back down and check off the fact that you've done your test, okay? Paying a minimum of 1 month or 1 day when you're just going to do your DR test for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 49 minutes is overpaying for cloud when you don't need it. So because Google provides minute-level billing, this actually conforms to the use case of disaster recovery and DR testing much more closely. And then the third thing that we really like is that, as Adam mentioned, that the Google Cloud has a lot of different points of presence around the world. And this is interesting, as I'll show you on the next slide. So the next slide is really an overlay of Infrascale's own cloud presence together with Google's cloud presence. Okay? And what we see, and we've kind of discovered this going in, is that these are actually very, very complementary, where Google has points of presence in many, many geographies where we don't, and in other areas that are very complementary. Now, this is important because many countries are now putting in regulations that say that their data, or at least sensitive data, cannot leave the borders of their country. Okay, what's called data sovereignty rules. So if you are a company that is based in a particular country, like take Australia, take Canada, or places like that, where you have rules around that, and you want to use the cloud for your computing or for your disaster recovery, then that system, that cloud presence has to be within your country. And so because Google has such extensive presence that is growing every day, that allows cloud-based DR solutions from Infrascale and Google to really scale out to many, many more geographies than was possible before. So that's also very, very important. So here is a very sort of high-level view of the architecture of the joint solution. The best way to read this chart is from the bottom up. So you'll see Infrascale Cloud Backup, our first cloud-based offering, and Infrascale Disaster Recovery, our other cloud-based offering. And each one of those, if you move one layer up, you'll see the gray boxes that say, Windows and Linux and Unix and so on. And these are the production servers, physical or virtual, that you're running your business on. And we will either install an agent on each machine or at the hypervisor level in the case of VMware and Hyper-V, and these agents will capture the data or the systems and either replicate them directly up to the Google Cloud or through an on-premise appliance up into the Google Cloud. And so this is how these two solutions are integrating together. And under the hood, we Infrascale are using Google's compute engine and various additional technologies within that in order to make this happen. Now, the last thing that makes this very interesting is especially for those people that are looking to get into cloud computing. I think one of the early poll questions was, are you using cloud for more than 50% of your business or not, or are you not sure? We run into many organizations that are not even yet doing any cloud computing at all, for whatever reason. And disaster recovery as a service, or DRaaS as we like to abbreviate it, is actually a perfect sort of way to put your toe in the water of cloud computing. Right? If you're just trying to figure out, does cloud have a place in my computing operations, DR is a perfect way to start. Okay? It is a secondary operation. It's not your primary compute. It is something that you use only when something goes wrong, so you can, set up the systems, you can test it out, make sure that everything runs normally, make sure that the response that you get is as good as what you were getting, in your production systems. And then once that's good, you've done your DR tests, but you've also proven out to yourself that, the cloud could actually work for you. As a side note to that, when we were, doing our work with Google and, validating our solutions in the Google Cloud, we were obviously testing out Google Cloud as well. And what we learned was that, or what we saw is that when we benchmarked it, the performance we were getting out of the Google Cloud rivaled the performance we were getting out of bare metal with our software running straight on metal. So that was to us a real testament to the performance of the Google Cloud. But for all of you, this is a perfect way to test out cloud computing and test out Google Cloud and decide whether doing more cloud computing is a good thing for you. So this culminates in really what we're announcing, which is that Infrascale Cloud Backup and Infrascale Disaster Recovery, our leading solutions in both data backup and disaster recovery, are now integrated and supported in Google Cloud, available globally today. And again, so if you're looking at use cases around how to protect against data loss, data hijacking from ransomware, or downtime, this joint solution might well be something that you'd like to consider. And so as a special offer for those of you who've listened, in addition to the prize that will be talked about, we're jointly offering anybody who is on this webinar a joint offer, which is that both Google and Infrascale will offer you a free trial and up to a $500 credit against usage to try out our joint solution and see how it works for you. So with that, I will transition it back to Chris for, I think, what is probably our last poll question.
Yeah, it is our last poll question. It's also the last question before the Q&A time has come. So I'll keep this up here on the screen so that way you guys in the audience can answer it while we do the Q&A session here. So I'll keep this up, and please feel free to answer it as we do the actual Q&A session here. Okay, so we have questions for both you guys. I'm going to start off first here with Stefan. So we have a question here from the audience. This person is asking, what kind of encryption do you offer at rest, or is it server-side, et cetera?
So we use AES 256-bit encryption, and all of the data is encrypted both at rest and in transit, encrypted at the source, encrypted again in transit, and then at the destination.
I got another question for you, here for you, Stefan. This question is asking, do you charge for DR tests, and if so, how much are they?
So we do not charge for DR tests. I didn't talk at all about pricing on the webinar here. Let me sort of talk about it in general terms. We offer flat rate pricing based on the number of terabytes that your systems have. And so it's a monthly fee we pay per terabyte, and for that fee, we don't care how much DR testing or DR events you do. On the Google side of things, you'll obviously will pay for the Google usage according to their pricing and terms and what kind of compute resources you're using on their side.
Got a question here, another one for you there, Stefan. Can you back up virtual machines or just physical servers?
So both physical servers, Windows and Linux servers, and for those who are using them, Unix servers as well. And then on the virtual side, VMware virtual machines and Hyper-V virtual machines.
Okay, and feel free at this time, if you still have questions in the audience, please feel free to enter them. Don't forget, the person with the best questions, or even the best question, has a chance to win a Parrot drone. So please feel free to enter your questions at this time. Curious here, another question for you, Stefan. Excuse me. Can you give me 2 to 3 reasons why this paired solution is better than a data appliance? Can you maybe comment on that?
So, yeah, I could talk about that for a long time, but basically Infrascale together with Google marries a leading disaster recovery as a service solution that was born in the cloud that provides broad system coverage together with the leading cloud that provides a really high performance cloud offering. So a lot of the the capabilities I mentioned about the Google Cloud, fast boot up time, fast performance, minute level billing, the global coverage. These are things that are unique to Google that, married with Infrascale, provides us with a joint solution that really far exceeds what might be available from the other company that was mentioned, and I think the in-house cloud that they may be using.
Adam, we got a question for you. A lot of people were curious about the Google Cloud Service. A lot of people were just curious what makes it so awesome, and how does the Google Cloud kind of compare with the other cloud solutions out there? What do you think stands out makes Google Cloud stand out amongst everyone else?
It makes it awesome because I'm part of the organization, but that's a really bad joke.
That's a great answer. Very true.
Yeah. I talked about the scale of the network and the infrastructure and the number of security engineers and some of the features on compute that we think are differentiators from other public cloud providers. A lot of these we can do because our VMs are actually based on a container infrastructure, so we can spin up a VM very fast because it's in a container. We can do live migrations because it's a container-based VM service. And really the fact that we kind of own all the fiber of that network. So the traffic going over that network doesn't ever leave Google's fiber. Some of the other clouds, need to lease others' fiber, which really just introduces latency into the equation. So if you take kind of all those factors and stack them together, we think we have some differentiating components.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you for sharing with everybody. A lot of people were asking you questions, so thank you for sharing your response there. Okay, we have a question here. Let's see. We'll go to the next one. This is for Stefan. This person is asking, do you have special pricing for partners at all? Do you have any information on that for this person?
So, yeah, we obviously offer special pricing for partners. We obviously have our suggested retail pricing, and then we have, partner level pricing. And for the person who asked that question, if you want to learn more, and especially the specifics, please contact us after this webinar is over, and we'll make sure to get you exactly what you need.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much. Question here for you, Stefan. Are you using some kind of snapshot technology to bring things back immediately?
To fail things back, it is not a snapshot technology. Things are running in the virtual environment, and when it's ready to be failed back, we'll orderly bring down those virtual machines and then restore them back to the original production systems. If there was any sort of underlying stuff we had to do into the machines in order to make them prepared to run back on the physical servers, we'll do that as well.
Excellent. We've got a question here. This person is asking, is anomaly detection an extra fee, or is it included by default?
It is included by default.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, and don't forget, if you still have a question for the guys, please feel free to enter it at this time. We do have quite a bit of time here left for Q&A, so please feel free. Let's see here. Question for you, Adam. Let's go to Adam. Question for you, Adam. What are the USP of Google Cloud? This is from Serban in the audience.
Sorry, what are the USP?
Yeah, what are the USP of Google Cloud?
That is a good question. And unique selling points, my favorite search engine tells me.
Thank you so much. Because I thought
yeah.
it was a tool. I didn't want to shortchange it.
Yeah, I thought you'd stumped me with a tough industry word there.
Me too. I thought he was stumping me also.
Yeah. I think we've talked ad nauseum on some of the compute points, and those are sort of largely touched to infrastructure, and not necessarily directly related to today's solution, but you'll see us leading in the market with where we think we have differentiators and are sort of perceived as the market leader around data and analytics with BigQuery. We feel we have a very strong kind of parallel processing query engine there. And then you'll see us continue to kind of push our industry-leading position on machine learning. We have a number of different machine learning services and a very big group of data scientists kind of focused on that space in general. to complement our infrastructure service and other things out there. So, I'd call it kind of leading with data and analytics and machine learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, if we got some more questions here. If you haven't entered one by now, please feel free to do so. You still are in the running for the Parrot drone. Okay, and also too, if you haven't answered the poll question yet, please feel free to enter your answer at this time. We'd greatly appreciate it. Let's see here. We've got a question. This one is for Stefan. Does Infrascale partner with other companies besides Google at this point? Do you have any information on that? This person was curious.
So in a completely different space, we have a partnership with AVG, who is a leading malware detection company, which obviously plays into the whole ransomware detection and other environments. So that is another partnership that we have that is also a global partnership with a global company, but again, a very different space than cloud computing. So yeah, that would be the other one I would bring up.
I got a question here. This is from Tom in the audience. He's asking, Stefan, is it possible and easy to recover individual emails from a backed up Exchange server?
Yes, it is. We provide capability within both of our products so that you can do mail item level recovery from within Exchange mail databases.
Question here for you. You talked about ransomware there, Stefan. How does your DRAS solution help solve this problem? Okay, so this is an interesting question.
The ransomware detection technology I talked about a little bit earlier in the webinar, I talked about change rate analysis to understand, file change rates and how that might predict ransomware. And that was really at a data level. There's another way that we can help with ransomware, and this is using our disaster recovery capabilities, and this obviously can run really well in the Google Cloud, is that if you have systems that are compromised by ransomware, such that the system either doesn't boot or it boots, but then the applications won't run properly because the data has been encrypted, you can use Infrascale Disaster Recovery to step back very quickly to prior recovery points of those virtual machines and boot them up. And you can very quickly step back to the last good machine that booted and data was accessible and restore that machine immediately, overwriting all of the the old data and the old ransomware, the ransomware infection on those systems, and recover yourself quickly. If you were not able to do that, you would have to basically step back, basically rebuild your machine, guess the date you got the infection, and then restore the data back onto those systems, and that could take a really long time. So we've had scenarios in the past where we've had clients that have been infected with ransomware, and using our DR capabilities, been able to very quickly spin up machines and find the one that spun up normally and restore that and have the person back up and running very quickly.
All right, we've got more questions here, so let me fire away. This person is asking, this comes from Tom again. He says, please talk about how a user might log into their virtual machine in the event of a disaster that renders our office inaccessible. Will it be easy for them to connect to a virtual version of their workstation from a home computer? Thanks for your answer. So yeah, that comes from Tom.
I'm sorry, Chris, I'm asking you can you say that one again just so I can make sure I understood it properly?
No problem, no problem. It's also from Tom Wheat in the Q&A if you want to read along with me because it is long. So I'll ask it again. It says, please talk about how a user might log into their virtual machine in the event of a disaster that renders the office inaccessible. Would it be easy for them to connect to a virtual version of their workstation?
So the answer is yes, it would be easy. However, implied in his question was, basically, okay, it's not just if my computers go down. What if my network goes down and I don't have access to the internet to get to my cloud-based instance? And so obviously you'll need an alternate networking or connectivity mechanism to be able to get to that. That's part of an overarching disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan that an organization should do. It's more than just about the computers. It's about the data connectivity, about phone connectivity, everything else. So, as long as the user can find some alternate means to connect to the internet to the cloud, then yes, they'll be able to easily access their machines.
Okay, excellent. We've got time for a couple more questions, so we'll squeeze a couple in here at the end of the show today. If we didn't get to your question, it doesn't mean you're not in the running for the actual prize at the end of the show. It just means we didn't have time to get to your question. We did get a lot of them, so please don't feel bad. We'll make sure that if you didn't get your question answered, we have somebody from Infrascale get back in touch with you after the program is over. Question here, this person was curious, what would be the best person or who should we contact over at Infrascale to go over pricing? Do you have a quick answer for that, Stefan?
Yeah, definitely you should contact our sales department. I think we have some contact information at the end of this webinar here, and definitely contact us that way as well, and we'll get you routed to the right person for sure. If you go right to our website, all of our contact information is right on the home page right there.
Okay, great. We have a question here for you, Stefan. This person is saying is other people advertise very short RTOs, but what this means is they will start restoration at the RTO, but from there it could take hours. How does this relate to your solution? Is it something similar?
So I do not believe it is similar. I mean, I obviously look at what everybody else claims and promises. When we talk about a very short RTO, what we are stating is that if one of your systems goes down, that system will be up and running in our cloud or in the Google Cloud within 15 minutes or less, okay? And right now we make that claim on a per machine basis. We'll likely be expanding that claim to be more broad in the near future. So when we say that, we mean that you will be able to log in to that system in 15 minutes or less. It does not mean that we'll kick off the process in 15 minutes or less, and it might take hours before you actually get to use the machine. 15 minutes or less, and you will be logged into that machine. And I should add, by the way, that, let me add one last thing to that question, by the way. 15 minutes is the guarantee. Actual reality is, usually typically less than a minute. That's one of the reasons why, again, back to the Google Cloud, why we were so interested in it, because they can boot machines really fast, under a minute typically, that becomes very, very important in a DR scenario. So, actual performance is typically, a minute or two. Our guarantee is 15 minutes or less.
Excellent. We'll close out the webcast today with this one last question. This comes from Tom. Again, Tom, thanks for all your questions. This person is asking, does the anomaly detection software take any action, or does it just simply alert the admin? Please chime in.
Yeah, so it just alerts the admin, because what we've done is we've detected anomalies, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's ransomware. There could be other things. The guy decides he wants to defrag his disk or something, or wants to remove a bunch of files between folders, and or something along those lines, and all of a sudden we see a lot of changes, but in fact it was not malicious. So we just send a notification to the administrator and let them deal with it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking time to answer all the questions that we got here. And Adam, thank you so much for answering the questions that we got for you as well. Thank you so much for both of your presentations and time today. Really appreciate that. Today's winner of the drone, and please excuse me if I don't pronounce your name correctly, but we will get in touch with you after the show. Abhishek Bajwar, please, you are the winner. So please keep an eye on your email box for an email from the guys over there at Infrascale, so that way they can get in touch with you regarding how to arrange the delivery of your parrot drone. So have fun with that. Enjoy it. It's a fun toy. But thank you all for your great participation in today's webcast. We really appreciate everyone taking an hour out of their days to join us for the show today. So thank you all so very much for that. Today's webcast, Faster Failover, Starts with a Faster Cloud, has been sponsored by Infrascale and brought to you by virtualizationreview.com. Thank you all for attending today's program, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.